one more second. We're going to talk about the market shifts and opportunities. It's going to be a lot of fun today, and can't think of anybody else I'd rather have the discussion with than this group in this community. It's going to be great. And I just want to say welcome to Dealmaker Zoom. These are resulting because my team thought it was a great idea. And when they bring to you some great ideas, you always jump on it. And they're just starting to schedule these with Dealmaker speakers. And we got some others coming up. It's going to be a lot of fun. Of course, Jeff and I have done a couple, but I think there's some others coming up. Chuck, maybe you would do one with us when you get back from Europe in a month. But I know like Mary Hart, Eddie Speed has agreed to come on to Zoom with us. So we have some really great people that are going to pour in and contribute and talk about what's going on. So today we're going to talk about market shifts. I don't know if you saw the article today, but it was talking about markets with a lot of inventory in them. And it listed some cities, specifically Miami, Florida, Austin, Texas. There's parts of Southwest Florida that hit this, Tom, in your area as well. Punta Gorda is on the top of every list, Tom, which is where you live. So jump in. But there are markets around the country that now have more than 6 months of inventory. And then the other part that's really shifting a lot is failed listings, which I think's a great opportunity, by the way. If you could buy them at the right price and the right terms, you could do pretty well. So we're going to talk about all that. I also want to talk about what happens if you're in these markets flipping houses and your houses don't sell, because that is happening. I can tell you here in Richmond, Virginia, where I live, our flips have been selling all year, like in a weekend still. But I think that isn't normal across all the markets across the United States. Markets are hyper local. I was talking to Tom Berry about this last week. And, even within cities, there's submarkets and price categories where things are still okay if it's reasonably affordable in a decent neighborhood at a decent price. But if you're at a high end, even in a good market, you might be sitting a bit. So rates, insurance, HOA, all of it matters. Jeff, in your area there in beautiful St. Paul, like I know it's similar to where my house in Sanibel is. Like HOAs in Florida and insurance are really an issue, and Florida is hurting pretty bad because of all of that. So
My
let's
friends
jump
that have
in.
my friends that have got their new constructions and rehabs in the St. Pete Beat market and the St. Pete market, they're they're concerned um,
Stressing.
about how quickly they're going to get them sold, and they're concerned about the price point. The borrowers that I have in Northeast Ohio, average, mediocre quality properties are selling still rather quickly, and they're selling for more than I think they should sell for. So, for those, don't come to Northeast Ohio. You don't need to come here. The weather's lousy. Don't come here because you don't want to. Okay, you want to stay where it's nice and warm. Okay. Anyhow, I'm being a little
Yeah,
silly.
warm deals sounds like a good place for cash flow, and so
I
some
take offense at that. It's gorgeous today.
is it a beautiful day, Judy?
I'm Judy. I'm trying to protect y'all's market. I'm trying to
It's
protect y'all's market.
gorgeous.
Yeah.
Judy, where are you located? Where are you,
Um,
Judy?
they're just down the road. They're just down the road from my office. They're within
In,
20 minutes of where my office is here in Ohio,
near Conneaut. Okay.
near Conneaut. Yeah.
All
Yep.
right. Well, I want to hear from you guys too. Like, we want this to be an open discussion on what you're seeing. So some markets are shifting a little bit. They're already got 6 months of inventory is a lot. That's like a buyer's market. We haven't had that in a really long time. And then other markets are becoming more balanced. You might have like 3 or 4 months of inventory. And then other markets are still doing quite well. Like I think the ones in Virginia here generally are doing pretty well. So, David, what's your perspective? You're always the one predicting the shift.
Well, I've been predicting shifts for quite some time, and getting it right as far as what happens
Yeah.
is impossible. You can't do it.
No.
So I'm gonna take a little bit more of a macro view, and then certainly, as you said, you've got a wealth of boots on the ground, pulse on the marketplace, and getting down to the specifics of regional, geographic, demographics, they're all important. But from a macro view, here's what I would say, and I'm going to bring some of this with a lot of charts and graphs to the Dealmaker October event because I think this is important. We can get very, very quickly involved in the tactical aspects of whatever our business or investing model is, and that's fine. That's where we should be. We should be focused on what we believe is going to get each one of us what we're looking for in life. If you're a younger person, well, you're trying to build equity, right? When I was younger, Jim, Jeff, anybody here that's got some gray hair, we all utilized leverage, debt being a source of our ability to extrapolate wealth when the tailwinds in the market allows. But we're going to a major, not a market cycle shift, but a major secular shift. And I've said this many, many times, that recency bias, what we believed and seen and experienced in the past is not a future a prediction of what we can see in the future. And that's hard for any of us to want to hear because we love to find a model that works. And we've all benefited from, I can go back 45 years because I've got that age. So I can go back to 1980 when I first started in this game of building wealth and optionality through real estate because that's when I first started. But let's just go back 15 years. Let's come out of the GFC and the massive tailwinds that we've all benefited if you've been involved in any asset class, any business model that you've done reasonably well. We've all benefited. And that's not to say that hard work is not part of the equation. It definitely is. You can't just show up and have magic happen. What I'm getting to is this major shift we're going through, and I won't go into all the details today because that'll come in October. But I think we have to be, some words I would use today is more diligent and more discerning about our models and looking ahead and saying the assumptions that we have used to say, well, this works for me or this has worked, are those assumptions still realistic going forward? And again, I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole of what that means. I'll bring that to October. Recency bias, I mentioned that. What we've known in the past to work, is that still going to work in the future? And I'd say if we're not pivoting and making adjustments right now in some respect to those assumptions, I think I've got some feedback or echo here. Somebody got an open mic? There, thank you. The assumptions that we're looking at, are they still accurate? And if not, what shifts are we making? And again, that's going to be individual for every person here. I can't give you a broad scope of what you should do. No one here will do that. But I think that no one here will do that. But I think this.
Unmute. There you go. Thank you. Oh, just unmute, David. Just unmute. Thank you. Oh, just
Great.
unmute.
Great. Thank you.
Just unmute. Thank you.
Okay, I hear it's like going down the tunnel of the echo chamber sometimes. But thanks. I know it's hard to keep people muted when they jump in and jump out. But thanks for working on that. Reversion to the mean. There's always a reversion to the mean, particularly when we've gone through any cycle in any asset class. If you want to call it crypto, if you want to look at the financialization of the financial markets, tech stocks, real estate. Pick your game. Whenever we've gone into a bubble, and we are definitely in bubbles in many areas, there's always eventually, can't time it, reversion to the mean. It means wherever the highs are, we're going to see it fall back, and when it falls back, it generally the line falls back below the mean point. What am I saying? I'm not saying that the sky is falling and you better run for the hills. I'm not saying that because the good news is in the inefficient marketplace that we all enjoy, business, real estate, alternative assets, the changes, the reversion to the mean are much slower than they are in the financial markets. When the financial markets take their drop and their correction, trust me, they will. They talk about falls like an elevator shaft. Boom. And we've seen it. We've seen it happen. We haven't had a real recession in this country since 2008 and 9. 2020, COVID doesn't count. It really doesn't count. We were due for one, but again, through aspects of money creation that happened there, let's just say that's an aberration. So we've had a run coming, let's say the depth of the 2008 GFC, different markets, different places, but I'd say we didn't start coming out of that really till 2011, 2012. And we've had a massive run in the last 13, 15 years, unabated, unprecedented in history. But what happened coming out of that? Well, we had COVID, the pandemic, black swan event, no one could predict. And I think, again, without being a Monday morning quarterback and pointing fingers, because I don't want to do that because I think people in government did the best that they could in many cases. But we had an overreaction to that, and we had massive liquidity injections into the economy, which again, benefit all of us in our respective models, I would say overall. We have turned the corner, and that liquidity and the ability for the Fed to control, thinking they can control the market, and that's where we get into interest rates. Well, is the Fed gonna drop interest rates in September? I'm telling you, don't pay any attention to the Fed. Everybody has their eyes on what's interest rates going to do. I'm telling you, folks, it doesn't matter. You go back to GFC 2008, and the Fed started dropping rates. All asset classes fell, including real estate, while they're dropping rates. So don't think the Fed's going to save the day. They can't. They're out of control. We have way too much debt, and we have a government that will never quit spending. So just keep that in mind as you think that the Fed and the government can somehow save the day again. Those days, I think, are on very thin ice. So I'm just saying, be careful with the models and the predictions you're running with, and be more discerning, be more careful. One more thing, and I'll let you jump in again, Jim. Counterparty risk. What do I mean by that? Every business model, I don't care if you're a dentist like I was for many years, and some of my good friends here, Paul White for one, if that's your model, if you sell various services, if you're Dollar Tree, if you are flipping houses, if you are holding long-term rentals or short-term rentals, whatever your game's been, or private lending, which is going to be obviously a big topic at the October event. Counterparty risk means, who are you depending upon to sell or exit whatever your model is? See, we can think we're good. Well, I've got a good model. I'm strong. I've got a balance sheet. Bravo. You should. Hopefully you do at this point. But who are we depending upon? Because it's the consumer out there that we are bidding on that's going to continue to buy, rent, whatever it is we're looking for. And the consumer, my friends, is largely tapped out and have only been kept above sinking by, again, government intervention. FHA, I mean, there's been so much abuse there. We've had student loans that have been off put forever. That's coming to a close this next month. Their credit card, auto loan delinquencies are topping out right now. The middle class and below, which should be the bulk of our country. I mean, who we depend upon to buy our houses or to rent to, and even in private lending, commercial borrowers, what's their exit strategy? Who are they depending upon? So you've got to look down the line and think, where is the additional risk? I may think I'm doing well. I may have my model figured out, but what's happening down line to people that aren't in the same position? Because most of America today, the vast bulk, are one minor crisis, a transmission falls out, somebody gets sick, someone gets laid off from not being able to make next month's rent or utility payment. Keep that in mind. All right, I'll stop there, Jim.
No, I think that's a great place to talk for a second, is about what's going on in middle America, and the average people. Many of them, most of them are check to check, as Wendy Cole said this morning on the phone. Many people are still check to check, paycheck to paycheck, and they are one disaster away from something bad happen. And I don't know about you guys, but many years ago that's happened to me, and it's not a fun position to be in when you're paycheck to paycheck, and then you have that transmission drop out. As you said, they don't have any cash reserves. Their credit cards are to the hilt. They're paying a top dollar for them. People are still trying to figure out what to do with their student loans. And so there is all of that. And then you got affordability, you have taxes, insurance, and rates. And that leads to where we're at and future opportunities coming up. Jeff, what's on your mind as we talk through all this? You got to unmute as well. National debt's a huge issue as well, and it's not going away.
The national debt is a huge issue. Congress has not pulled back on the reins of spending like we want them to. Despite all the increased income coming in from tariffs, we still see government spending going crazy. We're seeing a very interesting struggle. I think that we're at a very confusing time. I agree with David Phelps in many areas. I see deflation in certain segments, and I see inflation in other segments of our society. And the part that really my heart goes out to are the landlords that have been in this business, say 7 years or less, and you've got a lot of leverage on your rentals. Maybe you had a portfolio that you bird and you bird it out at 85%, 80%, and so on. Inflation is drinking your milkshake on the cash flow that you thought you were going to get, and your tenants are struggling to pay the rent. Ask me how I know. I got tenants that have good jobs that for the first time in months are struggling to pay. And I'm like, okay, this is something that's going on. I mean, so I see two things going on. I see deflation in the rents, and I see inflation in the cost of being a landlord. That is a double whammy. And if you're not ready to adjust on that, then you're going to miss it. But the good news is we've got the resources to help you adjust. Um, at the October event in Dallas, David will be speaking, Jim will be speaking, I'll be speaking, Eddie Speed will be speaking. Eddie's got a lot of research and study on this area right now for some solutions for landlords in this area. So watch it. I mean, I have seen rents settle down in St. Pete Beach, Florida. I have
Okay.
seen them, I've seen them stop escalating. They're holding.
Yeah,
They're
no, I don't
yeah.
disagree that
And
I just
and
haven't seen them drop. Like I've re-rented two or three this summer that all went up from a year ago.
now
A little bit.
Sarasota, Florida has that issue right now because they're bringing
Yeah.
on so many brand new multifamily units and
Yep.
they've got so much competition for that luxury renter that we're seeing rents get compressed. We're seeing a lot of incentives. That's the thing you got to understand with these
Great point.
large commercial operators, they won't drop the rent, they'll just add incentives. Oh, the rent's still 1,500 a month,
Yeah.
but you don't have to pay it for the first 3 months.
Yep.
Well, it's the same thing with housing, new housing. For the first time, I think almost ever, we have new housing construction that's selling for less than existing. Now, what's that all about? Well, is it really true? Um, and it is true. What's happening there is, to your point, Jeff, incentives. What are builders doing? Well, they're incentivizing. They're buying down mortgage rates.
Yes.
The spread between the average existing home today, which again, this is a national average, so realize that your market will differ, 435,000. Uh, if you take the incentives that the builders are injecting into the sale of their models, they are $40,000 to $80,000 less than existing. What's that tell you about existing home prices? They got to come down. They got to come down, folks. It's just a matter of time. So, to your point, Jeff, existing landlords, particularly if you're still leveraged and your NOI, their operating spreads, are getting thinner and thinner by the day, it might be time to consider shifting your model. And we hate to do that because it's like, well, I want to play the long game. I buy rentals for a long game. I get that, folks, but I will Jeff, deflation is in the forecast. Do you want to hang on by your fingernails, for how many years to have it finally come back again? Or do you want to make a pivot right now to a different model? And again, that's a lot of what will come out of the October event.
Yeah.
But these are the things I think everybody's got to look at really hard today, more so than you ever have in the past. In the past, number of years, whenever you look, we all have days where that that tenant just just blows you up with the issues, and you go, I'm out, right? We all have those days. Then we come back and go, no, I got to play the long game.
I think you must have seen my phone yesterday.
Well, we've all been there, and again, I'm in a different place than I was certainly
I
20, 30,
know.
40 years ago when owning rentals was absolutely the best thing that I did. So I'm not taking away from that. I'm just saying,
No, I
folks,
know.
we're in a different place right now. So maybe let's go and buy the rentals, even if we buy them, cheap enough. Well, what's cheap enough today? I don't think we know. I don't think we know. So be careful.
Good warnings. Good
I mean,
warnings.
the deals I'm structuring now for clients, whether it's in Virginia or Florida or Ohio, the deals I'm structuring for clients now is they're acquiring properties to run as rentals where they're coming in using lease option, master lease option, because they have an exit strategy out. They're able to control it. And the best deals they're negotiating right now are performance master lease options, which they're
Yep.
coming in and saying, hey, Mr. Homeowner, Mr. Seller, I'm going to help you lose less. And we're going to get you to where you're getting 70, 80% of your house payment from me, but I'm doing it where I'm only paying you as I collect the rent. And that's the safest place to put a newer investor today is in a performance master lease situation because they've got exit strategies, they're creating a buffer and they're limiting their downside risk substantially and still capturing any upside that may be there.
I'm gonna take a little issue with that, Jeff. I am totally a fan of control without ownership and liabilities. I'm totally a fan of options, master leases. But I'm gonna go back to what I said earlier, counterparty risk. You've got a ton of counterparty risk. You're depending upon the owner of that property not to run into financial problems. If you set up, a lease or a master
Right.
lease, and they go down the tubes, your equity is gone, my friend. And now you may have some obligations to a tenant that you put in place. So I'm
Yeah.
just saying, all these, there's always a trade. There's no
There,
perfect way to navigate this. You've got to. That's why you've got to understand that there's more downside risk than most people understand. So you better carve through those things and understand before you jump in. I look, Jeff, I am a fan, but right
yeah.
now, I think all this stuff is potentially dangerous.
Well, and David, I appreciate that. Counterparty risk is something you look at. I mean,
Nobody ever
there,
talks about it. So
Nobody
I
talks about it because you
appreciate
yeah,
haven't
it.
had to. You haven't
yeah,
had to because the economy's been fine, but
yep.
it's not now.
I mean, if you think about it from this perspective, I can only think of two assets that I own right now with little to no third-party counterparty risk, and that is precious metals
Uh-huh.
and cryptocurrency. Those are the two. That's it. Now, what's the liquidity for them in the future? Who knows? What's the market for them in the future? Yeah, precious metals have had a nice rise, but hey,
But don't we
next week
all
could be
live
something
and
different.
thrive in a risk environment? I mean, I've thrived in a risk environment for 20 years through multiple
Yeah.
cycles.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
wait, yeah, but Jim, I just said we've had declining interest rates for 20 years. We had declining interest rates for 40 years. I'm telling you, a risk environment is only good when you have the fundamentals behind you to drive that.
Hmm.
I'm just saying I
Fundamentals
think
are the key.
we've got to reevaluate where we are
Yeah.
right now and say the game we played and we all have done relatively well
Yep.
is shifting. So I think we're at a risk off standpoint right now. I wouldn't go into heavy risk right now. That's
No,
just me
I
personally.
agree.
I
I agree. I agree. I like talking about counter risk. So
well,
nobody ever
let
does.
let's ask this question from a Leon Johnson perspective.
Okay.
Does the structure of this deal increase or decrease my peace and freedom?
There you go.
How much does it threaten my peace and freedom? That is a way of
That's what we
bringing
talked about
down
this
to,
morning, Jeff.
yeah, that's a way of breaking it down to what
Yeah.
David's been talking about. We're going to evaluate that counterparty risk. We're going to evaluate the headwinds. We're going to evaluate what's going on. We're going to look at it from how is this impacting my peace and freedom? What are my risks? Because when you start to ask that question, how can this interfere with my peace and freedom? That's when you can start opening your eyes to the things David's been talking about.
Mhm.
let me add one more thing to this again, and I'm not trying to be a David Downer here at all. I just trying to bring relevance because I Jim and Jeff, you know me. I'm very much an optimist.
Me too. Forever.
I love to find opportunities, but I'm also in this time in my life I'm more risk averse than I ever have been before for a lot of reasons. And the other thing to keep in mind, folks, I've always been a fan of residential single family. Always been a fan. But what did we learn if we hadn't learned before, more so coming out of COVID, the pandemic? Housing is becoming a right in this country, whether you think it is or not. The
Oh, it's
government's saying it's
under
a right.
attack.
What do we see about eviction moratoriums, forbearance on foreclosures? When when it gets tough in this country, who are the politicians going to look for their votes?
Hmm.
They're not going to look for us. They're saying, I want to appeal, and they want to be do-gooders. So when the S hits the fan and we start seeing a turnover, we saw it in COVID. We had no rights, did we? Jeff, you mentioned small landlords. That's the problem. We don't have any voice in this when contractual rights, property rights in this country are snatched away because the government decides it's the best thing to do. So when we get into all the structures that we learned from Jack Miller, which most creative guy and Pete, but boy, gang, when you're dealing with consumers right now, all the fancy stuff that we can do to walk around these things and have less obligation, we think less liability. I'm just saying, be very careful because what you think stands today can be snatched away tomorrow in a heartbeat.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey guys, if I could chime in a little.
Jump
Hey,
in, Tom.
yeah,
You're sitting there in Punta Gorda, Florida, the top of
yeah.
every list.
Jim, yeah, Jeff and David. Good to see you, David. David and I actually do go back to those Jack Miller days he just mentioned, way back.
Way back.
Well, I'm here in Punta Gorda, Florida. I used to live in Fort Lauderdale on the East Coast, and I used to work this market from over 2 hours away until I moved here about 2 years ago. And then right away, I've always done well in new construction around here. But I'll tell you, man,
It's tough.
it is slowed down tremendously. And I know those of you who tune into the Sunrisers meetings that we do on Friday morning, Brian Maddox gives a breakdown of the country and the different markets, and Punta Gorda always
Always at
appears
the
to
top of the
be
list.
it's always at the top of the list. So I've got two brand new 5 bedroom, 3 bath manufactured homes. I just got done building and putting together. We put them on the market about 3 weeks ago. Not one text message, not one phone call, not one inquiry whatsoever. And I've got the sharpest realtors in the area that are marketing for it. I did the same thing with a saltwater, brand new 3 bedroom, 2 bath Airbnb here in Punta Gorda on the water, boat dock, boat lift, everything. Beautiful home. Not one inquiry. It is just so incredibly slow. Just this morning, I got off the phone with again Brian Maddox, and we were talking about, all right, the plan here is plan B would be DSCR loan, everything, and then pad split them. And I'm
Yep.
actually glad that I did big 5 bedroom, 3 bath mobile homes because I know those will cash flow. And my all-in price on them, because they're manufactured, is not that great. It's reasonable. But they will actually do DSCR loans in the 6.5% range on manufactured. So if I can get a 30-year fixed 6.5% and just wait this out and focus on cash flow today with the DSCR and pad splitting them, I think that's going to be my
I
route
think
for
it's a
now.
good
But
point for all of
yeah,
us to have plan A, plan B.
yeah, absolutely. So
So,
definitely have a plan B in this
and if
market.
you're lending, I would
But
recommend you ask your borrower what plan B is. I did that with one that we funded today.
Plan B,
Uh,
Plan B, Plan A, Plan B, and Plan C, I would
if you're
suggest.
helping me with it, the one in North Carolina, I said, "What's your plan B if this doesn't wholesale sell?" And he said, "I'll DSCR it and I'll keep it as a furnished rental." I think
yep.
it's important to know and ask
So
that question when you're lending as well.
I want to go back to something that Tom said about
Okay.
pad split. A lot of people don't understand what pad split is, and I'm not gonna try and explain it. I'm gonna use a very simple illustration. The American consumer has already been prepared for that model of living.
Mhm.
Golden Girls sitcom show ran for how many decades? And that was essentially a pad split arrangement.
There you
Mhm.
go. We're
And
working nine to
so
five.
And so that will be something that people will become more and more comfortable with. And it plays into the fact that the average consumer, particularly the baby boomer who failed to save for retirement and now is in their 60s, and once they get laid off, once they lose that last job, they're done. They're not going to get hired again. They're going to be looking for the most affordable way to live, and it's going to be manufactured homes, it's going to be pad split, it's going to be some sort of sharing arrangement and so on. We're going to see a lot of that. I'm adjusting my portfolio as a result of that. I am focusing on much more simple concepts for people to live that way.
Are you telling me I'm gonna have to pad split with you someday, Jeff Watson? Is that what you're
I
setting me
don't
up
think
for?
that'll happen, Dr. Phelps, because I think that you're going to stay in love with Texas and I'm going to be over in Florida.
Oh, that would be an amazing mastermind. So let's talk about that, David. I mean, you and I met back in the Jack Miller days as well, which is awesome. And you've helped me so much over the years, besides just being a really close friend who I can always rely on. Like you and I can tell each other anything, anytime. But how important, and then you build your own mastermind, but how important is it to be in the right environment with the right people to help you through cycles and figuring out your future?
Yeah, it's really almost everything. I say it's the best insurance policy that I found, and we all buy insurance to cover for uh, to mitigate other risk factors, like we buy actual policies, right? But if I had to choose a policy that's meant the most for me, because like everybody here, and Jeff said earlier, we're not done going through twists and turns in our life. As long as God gives us the ability to live on this earth, we're going to go through ups and downs, whether it's health or personal relationships or business or market cycles, you name it. And so being around other people and choosing the people is also very important. Uh,
Yeah.
Many of you I know are faith-based. Doesn't mean you have to just always find someone who's an evangelist about their faith, but I like to find people who I know at least like there's something more to them than just they're got some magical fad, some bright shiny object thing that I'm going to go do that's going to save me. I want to be around people who are willing to be open, transparent, authentic about their lives. I don't want people to show up and tell me about how great they are and how they're killing it out there in the market. I'm happy for people to have wins. We all want wins, but I want people who can tell me with the war stories. What have you been through? Because that's what resonates with me because I've been through them. You all have been through them. You're probably in some right now. Be around those people who don't have a bias or don't have an agenda on you. Not trying to sell you something. It's just we're there for a common purpose, and that is to share, to collaborate, to bring perspective. I often say to the people I'm privileged to shepherd is we can't read the outside of the label on a jar from inside a jar. We're all inside our own jar. There's a label outside that we can't read, but other people can. I can't do it for myself. I've got to have other people when I'm going through something, and that's why I want to be a part of groups. That's why I want to have people like Jeff and Jim and other people here on this call on speed dial, because I know I can get a perspective from them that I can't get from anywhere else. And then I have the opportunity to, with discernment, with prayer, whatever you do, to say, well, what's my best next step to take? And I can't say anything more than being a part of a group that facilitates that
No, I
kind of.
love the way you put that about being authentic, vulnerable. Like, don't try to control people's perception. Lean into the issues, because those are the people that make me nervous when everything's perfect. There's never an issue. They have large egos. David, people ask me about this. All right, David, side note. People ask me about this concept of when I mention it all the time at Dealmaker, I say, leave your ego at the door. You know where I picked that up? From you, the Freedom Founders, which I'm
Well,
looking forward to
yeah,
getting
well,
back
yeah,
to.
we say that. Jim, you've never had a problem with that. I can
Yeah,
authentically say you've never had a problem with
thank
ego. That's why,
you.
that's why, that's why people follow you because you are authentic. But that's the case.
It's
If
so
you're,
important.
yeah, if you're in any kind of group or if you're facilitating a group, you've got to set that standard from the outset. It's got to be a place where people can come and feel seen and heard and appreciated and respected. And if you don't have that in a community or you're looking at one that doesn't have that, I'd find another one.
I
Group.
agree. I was talking to Wendy Coles this morning. Her new podcast is out. Has anybody heard her podcast this week? Wendy's on with us now. I want to put the link in there because it's an incredible story. Wendy's a dear friend of ours and an incredible heart. But if you're looking for an authentic, transparent, refreshing look on life, you need to listen to her podcast. It's Wendy, I'm really glad you did it. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
So yeah, I got to put a link in the chat for everybody. Wendy, there you are. How you doing?
Good. I just got back from the grocery store, so I
I
was
know, I
on
know. I
mute.
figured. I
I
figured.
appreciate that. Thank
All
you.
right. Yeah, it's really good. I'll see if I can find it in a minute here. It's really refreshing. And David, don't you think so many people put like boundaries around their life and try to control those perceptions? I think I haven't been that way in many, many years. You've known me a really long, David, I think you've known me longer than anybody on Zoom right now. Like maybe when I first started, I was nervous around people and I'd be nervous about leaning into all of my massive mistakes, but eventually I just busted that out and said, this is me. I screw up quite a bit. I get a lot of things right and a lot of things wrong, and it's okay.
Well, there's way too much of people worrying about what other people think of them. I think, and look, we all go through that right here. Is like, well, we want to show up well in the world. We want to look like, we've got our stuff together and, we're working in a career or investments, whatever. And then that, that we're doing well. I mean, we all want to feel respected and feel like we're doing well for our families. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I think
recognize that pretty much every
Sorry about that.
that's okay. I think that the comparison factor, and it's of course, unfortunately, huge on social media today, is everybody's showing the great life and the great food they're eating and all that stuff, and people sit back and if you don't have discernment and people around you that can help you feel like, hey, I'm okay exactly who I am. I'm good. It doesn't mean you can't aspire to do better, be better. Personal growth, I think, is huge, but I think there's way too much comparison, and I think that factor is a big negative for our society. And I know with kids or grandkids, trying to gate them as much as parents or grandparents can
Yeah.
from the world of that kind of comparison, I think is huge today. But it affects and infects all of us if we allow it.
Yep. So you got to create the right culture. Um, Tell us a little bit about Freedom Founders, David. I'm looking forward to coming back. It's been way too long since I've been there.
Well,
Right at the end,
well,
right at the end of Dealmaker.
you're gonna be back. You're gonna be back in October. It just so happens that we set our events
Love
up in Dallas, Texas, like just offset by a couple days. So that's why I get to come over to Dealmaker, and you get to come over to Freedom Founders at the end of yours. So no, I just just in a nutshell, because I came from the world of dentistry, professional practice. I understand what their needs are and what their barriers are and challenges are. I understand that, inherently. And because I, built my plan B, escape path, if you will, in real estate, dentistry was my day job, which produced the eat money that we all need. Real estate was never my day job. I was always a long-term investor, so I'm not a flipper. I'm not a flipper. I'm not a wholesaler. I do private lending, but that is as close as I get to, actually being operational in real estate. So I was always long-term, but I built my exit through the tenets that I learned with people that are here. And we mentioned Jack and Pete and Jimmy and John and just, the four horsemen is I want to bring that same understanding and ability to my cohort, which again, I have no issue with the financial markets. I don't think it's wrong to have money in the financial markets. But I think if you don't diversify and learn how to shepherd your own capital, which means probably getting out of the financial markets to some degree and understanding how to do it, I think it's going to be a failure and a very disappointing failure for many people who thought they had it all in the bag. But this next turn is going to be frustrating for a lot of people who thought they were ready to quote retire and end up and look. I've seen it over many cycles. Is once they exit the next big downturn and they're back looking for a job again, and that's a sad place to be. And I don't want people to be there. I don't want anybody to be there. And the more we can give education to people to understand risk factors, how do you really build wealth? How do you protect it? How do you sustain it? What's wealth all about? Why are we building wealth? What's the reason behind it? Expectations about what it provides for us, not just mansions and big trips. No judgment, but what's it really all about? And I think with the recent years, let's just go back 15 years of these massive tailwinds, I think expectations have just been distorted beyond anything we've seen. The culture in this country is in a big mess, and it's not going to be pretty. I don't know how the government thinks they're going to navigate this aspect, because if we've got the majority, I'd say at least 70% of this country, as we said earlier, is really living paycheck to paycheck with very few aspirations to be able to do better other than buying lottery tickets. And
And don't forget, like there's a lot of technology changes coming with AI
yeah,
that are
well, we
eliminate more jobs.
we have new graduates that are not getting hired right now, and they're coming out of school with debt, with expectations I was going to get some great job. It's
Yeah.
not happening.
No.
And so the problem is the government, continues to try to feed the, I don't use that word, to help feed, I mean, figuratively and literally, just through entitlements and EBT cards and housing subsidy, oh, you name it, right? And not paying your loans back. But those days are coming to an end. Now, what's that gonna do for a civil society, or what we think is a civil society? I know I'm going down a deep rabbit hole here, and I'm gonna stop because I could go deep here. But see, there's so much downside risk and so many factors that people are not even looking at. And I care about the country, I care about people, I care
Sure.
about the future. I don't care about my wealth and what I mean, I'm not done with that, but I'm just saying, I've been the benefactor of many decades, and I understand that I'm a benefactor. And so it's my job, and I think my obligation and responsibility to give back as much as I can to other people. And you're doing the same thing right here in Dealmaker.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and these are conversations we need to talk about. And I'm glad you started off with landlords too, because it is becoming more challenging. The only good thing about being a landlord for a while is your equity is way high. So you can convert it, but then you got another problem because then you got taxes and you've got, you got to do something with it. And you got to be careful who you invest with, David. The
Mhm.
operator is so critical. And that goes back to another thing I learned from David Phelps, which is your network equals your net worth. Is that a timeless saying, David? I mean, does that work in all markets?
Yeah, and I'm not saying I coined it. Most things in life we get from somebody else, or we put little iterations. So, but maybe you heard it from me because I probably heard it from somebody else. But yes, I think it fits. The thing that I think you're bringing up here, which I did want to make a point.
Yeah.
I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe most of the people that are part of the massive deal maker community are in large part, active in,
Mhm.
fixing, flipping, wholesaling, rentals, you name it. And I think that in this market, that's good. Let me give you the contrast. I did all that. I did rentals. I didn't do the other stuff, right? So I was very active for a number of years in that arena. That gives you proximity to your capital, right? I mean, proximity means how connected are you to where your money is going. So if I own a business, or my business is real estate, or I'm investing my money into rentals where at least I have control because I have the title. I can either manage it myself, or I can hire a manager. If I don't like the manager, I can get rid of the manager. If I don't like the house, I can sell the house. If I'm lending money, direct lending, same thing. I have a title, I have a lien. I can set the structure, as Jeff says, set the structure so I provide guardrails. And at the end of the day, if I don't like what's happening, or the contract is not being followed through, then I have control. Okay, so proximity to your capital is a good thing. Now, the downside is proximity means you have to be more active, right? I'm at a point in my life where I don't want to do that anymore. So what does that mean? It means I have further separated myself from my capital. To your point, Jim, I do most of my investing today. Small percentage I do in direct lending with certain people, but I don't actively go out and look for rentals. For the most part, I have exited those in different forms and fashions, which is a nice place to be when you can do that, because there's multiple ways to exit, as you mentioned, Jim. But I've got to invest through other people because I don't want to do it myself. So now I'm more separated from my capital, and as a more passive investor today, I have to have different levels of diligence, and that's a whole nother presentation and seminar in itself, because I certainly got a lot of lessons to talk about there. But I think most of your core is active, and that does give you an advantage. It does give you an advantage in a market that we're in right now.
Jeff, what are your thoughts on all of this? We've talked through a lot of stuff today. You have any
There's,
follow-up?
yeah, we've talked through a lot of stuff. I would put it this way. We've had an incredible tailwind for a very long time. And if you really look at that tailwind that David's been describing, we've had that tailwind for the better part of 35 years. If you look at what interest rates were coming out of the Reagan takeover from the Carter failure to now, the trend line for that huge period of time from, say, 1980 to 2020 was pretty much a straight line down. There was one little blip up, and boy, did that cause a lot of little problems. Um, that has now, so we had 40 years of that kind of expectation. And so, David, not just recency bias, but a little bit of intermediate bias as well. And at some point in time, that runs out, and it has run out.
Mhm.
So so we've got that. That's something to be paying attention to. And so I've been telling people now, right now, you need to underwrite your deals today to where it will survive at an 8 to 10% interest rate on your money. If it doesn't survive at that, then it's not a deal. The second thing is, the closer you are to your capital, yeah, the more diligence you've got to be on it, because it's there nearby. But if you want to start to step back, you've got to be more diligent in other areas. You've got to swap, instead of that proximity effort, you've got to now start doing more effort in your due diligence as to who are the operators, who are the people involved, what is their track record, how deep can I dig on them?
Absolutely.
You've got to do a lot deeper digging. Um, I mean, I remember driving past the first house I ever lent money on. Yeah, I could drive past the house on a regular basis. Now I'm putting money in deals that I can't drive past that house, so I've got to really start looking deeper and deeper.
Yeah, me
And Jim,
too.
you know how thorough I try to be on just a simple hard money, private money loan
Right.
closing, with the things that we're looking for and the layers there. And that's just one slice of the due diligence pie.
Right.
There's a bunch of other slices of the pie that you're doing. So you've got to have that heightened due diligence. And then the last thing I'm going to tell you is this. And David said it, but I'm going to be a little harder and blunter. Don't be scared. Don't stop investing. Don't panic. But you've got to continue to be diligent and be a good steward. I'm going to use that word again in a minute. You've got to be a good steward of the resources that you have been temporarily entrusted with. The moment you believe it is your money and not God's money,
Yeah, I
moment
agree.
that you're going
John
to
and I were
begin
just talking about
separated
that
from it.
yesterday, Jeff. And
Yeah.
that has got to be the perspective for me as well. Anyone else on today have a question you'd like to just unmute? We can ask it really quick. By the way, we do have Dealmaker in Dallas coming up in like 7 weeks. David Phelps is our keynote speaker. Can't wait to see what he brings out. Jeff and I are really looking forward to hosting this event. It's going to be amazing 3 days. And this week through Friday or Thursday, it's $150 off. So jump in the link and get registered. It's going to be really, really good. Anyone have a question or a thought or a comment? Tell us about your market or whatever. I also want to congratulate Dealmaker Birmingham, Alabama. They're doing their launch tonight, right, Melanie? So
Yes, I unmuted to let everybody know it's tonight at 6 p.m.
oh,
at Trim Tab Brewing in Birmingham. If anybody is in the area,
good.
please stop by.
Yeah, it's going to
first
be a
night.
lot of fun. Dealmakers are meeting in about 30 cities every month, probably 1,500 people or so. There's David, Texas is one of our biggest markets because we have Houston, Dallas, and Austin, outside of Austin, where I was last month. And all three are going good. And we have a Spanish only in DFW with Homero, who you know, David. He's doing a
Absolutely.
great job with that. Oh my gosh. So growing like crazy. So make sure you join us. It's going to be good. I mean, you got to be in the right room. And David mentioned not just the room, but you got to be with the right people. It's so critical if you're going to navigate future cycles and things like that.
So, Jim, let me talk about that for just a minute. The
Yeah.
importance of being in the room. And I'm going to use a really basic analogy. Because this is what happened in my life. Is I started getting into the right rooms, and it took my real estate investing from stalled to functional and going somewhere. When you get in the right room, you are going to encounter the correct catalyst. And when I say correct catalyst, I mean the right catalyst for you. Now, I'm not a chemical engineer, but I think all of us have seen baking soda and vinegar come together before and seeing the reaction. Okay. That's kind of like what I'm talking about is when you encounter the right thing that sparks you, that removes that roadblock, that gives you the resource, that helps your network, that key connection. For me, it was a single sheet of blue paper mailed out by the late Dyke Spotiford, a man I will be eternally grateful for. I came down, I met Dykes, I met so many other wonderful people in Atlanta. This is 2009, 2008. It led me to be at some of the last Jack Miller seminars. That piece of paper that he direct mailed out to somebody else, and I saw it on their desk, was the catalyst to changing my real estate investing business. And so you don't know what it will be that will take and change your business to the next one. So you've got to start getting into those right rooms. And I'm going to tell you, if a bunch of other people tell you that the deal maker room is the room to be in because it's how it's changed their business, that's a place to start for your business, to find and encounter that thing.
Yeah, I think back, David, originally I tried being a landlord as a really young 20-something engineer, and it went really bad. I had no training, no processes, no people, no tribe. It was just me and Cheryl, and it was really ugly. And then Cheryl said, "That's it, we'll never be a landlord again." And then, like 10 years later, I had to do something because I didn't want to relocate when we closed all our factories down. And I said somebody invited me to Tampa to go to Jack Miller, and I remember looking at our checkbook saying, I don't think this is such a good idea. And Cheryl said, we have to go.
Mm.
And the rest is history. Jack Miller, John Shaw, Peter Fortunato. That's where I met people like you, David Phelps, and you, Jeff Watson, and Quincy Long, and so many others way back when.
Life changing, no doubt.
Hi, Jim. My name is Paul Applefield.
Hey,
I have
Paul.
have a quick question.
Okay.
Similar to Tom Nardone, I have a property down in Punta Gorda. It's a new build and was not completed by the borrower. It's a fairly sizable loan, and I'm just kind of curious, what kind of steps would you suggest that I take to try and mitigate my losses? Either sell it as is or put additional funds in to complete the build out. That's where I'm at.
Paul, did you take the property back already via deed in lieu or foreclosure or anything? Or you
No,
still?
I have not done that yet. We're trying to avoid that situation. Actually, we're trying to see if the borrower can actually complete the property. He's done pretty well in that vicinity in the past.
Yeah.
I guess Punta Gorda has been pretty rough spot of late.
All right, Jeff, you want to take that one?
Got a couple of ideas. So, Paul, the first thing I would do is I would give this borrower a definitive deadline.
It's good.
The second thing I would do is find someone else that you would have them step into it via what I'm going to call a one-step removed deed in lieu of foreclosure. So instead of the borrower deeding it back to you or your lending company, have that borrower deed it to a new person that has an established track record. Maybe it's Tom, maybe it's somebody that Tom recommends, and then let that person finish the project. But you're going to be looking for someone who's got an established track record of finishing stuff in the very recent past.
Very good.
That's what I would do.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really hard one, Paul. And that's why lending on new construction, it's it's definitely a risk.
The,
Yeah,
the
Paul,
advantage you've got, Paul, is just north of you and just north of you up in Sarasota and just south of you down towards Fort Myers, you've got two strong hotbeds of a lot of rehabbers with decades of experience. So find somebody in those groups that's got recent successful experience of getting stuff done. And Paul, I got to ask you, did that area flood a year ago or not?
To be honest with you, Jeff, I do not know.
That
Paul,
is
where
the
are you
most
located?
important question to know right now in that area of Florida is, did it flood or not? That is oxygen or deprivation right now.
Definitely
Yeah,
important to know. Paul, what area are you located in yourself?
I'm out in Southern California, Calabasas.
Okay. All right.
So,
Tough
yeah.
spot.
Anyways,
All
thank
right.
you, gentlemen. I appreciate your time.
Yep, go get them, Paul. You can get through it. I know you can do it.
Yes, sir. We've done other situations. It's
I'm
not the
sure.
first time that there's been a problem.
All right. Well, I just want to head to closing here. Jeff, do you have any final words? And then we'll sign off here and let David go on to his day.
Do you want to grab this question from Dr. Paul White?
Oh, Paul?
Paul had a question.
It was actually twofold question. One, I have a property that's been rehabbed and sitting on the market. And the problem with the deed in lieu is then I now incur all the costs that are carrying the property and have the same issue of trying to get the property sold. So is there any other, I love your thing, Jeff, about having the deed in lieu to somebody else that's more seasoned, but I'm not sure anybody would step into a property that's just not selling, sitting on the market, and
What market's that in, Paul?
This one's in California, actually.
You might want to talk to Paul Applefield.
Right, I will.
Paul and Paul, you two need to talk.
We'll trade. Let's trade.
Put your text in the chat and I'll follow up. Then the other question I had is also a California question. I have a son living out there, and I was looking maybe to David Phelps and Jeff and get your opinion. You're a young couple. You're looking to buy a house. They're ridiculously expensive. We're talking, 7 figures easy. And what advice would you give to a young couple that would be pushing it to afford it. They can afford it, but as far as buying a property there now, because they're set on staying out there. So
I'd say
Move.
no.
That'd be my advice. Move.
No. Well, or if you're going to stay there, rent. Don't buy now. The market's deflating, as Jeff said. If
Yeah.
you're stretching right now, they're just going to get upside down. And yeah, if you're going to live in that house for the next 15, 20 years, will you finally get there? But why put yourself through the stress? Renting in so many markets right now is cheaper than owning.
yeah.
So don't push it.
Well, rents aren't cheap out there. They're $5,000 to $7,000 a month for renting and
Yeah,
where
but
they
yeah,
are.
well, but yeah, I'm not saying they're cheap, but contrast that with what the cost of that same house and owning
No
it with
doubt.
all the obligations that go with it. So nothing's cheap in California. Okay,
No.
relatively
And
speaking.
houses still aren't staying on the market very long out there. That's what I'm wondering if I knew that would be what you'd say. I'm just kind of curious as to what you would tell them, because they're really anxious about getting something.
Yeah, everybody wants to step in the home ownership. You got to get on the ladder. I get that. I think now, in general, it's not a good time. I certainly probably wouldn't do that in California unless there was
They'd
some
have to really
specific
commit
deal that you brought to the
they'd-
table that made sense. But yeah, bar
They'd have
that.
to commit pretty long term for me to jump in there.
Yeah.
Like 15 years.
Hey, Paul, where are your kids located in California?
Ocean Beach.
Got it.
So if you got anything out there that's creative, that'd be awesome.
You guys can collaborate, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
I'll follow up with you.
All right,
Thank
David
you.
Phelps, thank you for all the years of friendships, whether we're sailing out on a cruise ship somewhere or hanging out at your place in Dallas, or if you're visiting me here in Richmond. Honestly, I look back at all the history of doing live events, and the one event that you really helped me with was called The Ultimate Freedom Without Banks. It was the one that you and John Groom came to in Richmond. And that was the first event where everything like clicked. So I appreciate your helping me way back then and encouraging me to do this live event thing for all these years. You've been a friend and a mentor and a trusted advisor. So all my best to you and Candace.
Works both ways, my friend. Works both ways. Thank you.
All right.
All right.
I've got a question that I need to bring up.
Okay.
Melanie, this is going to be for you.
Oh,
Someone who's on the call, who's asked not to be identified, has said, "Hey, I'm trying to get registered for Dealmaker now. Tried to do the $150 off, but it's still showing at $6.95 in the cart. Any ideas?
oh.
Is there a glitch? Because
Not that
No,
I
they
know
can, I don't know. They can
Let me look.
email me. Here, let me put it in the chat.
okay,
Well, it's Melanie at Elite Dealmakers.
Oh, let me fix that right after this, okay?
Yeah.
That's
If
me.
anybody ever has any issues,
No, I already did.
they're
wasn't
always
sure of
welcome
that.
to email me.
All right, so we're gonna fix that right after this.
okay,
Appreciate
perfect.
whoever that was that sent you that, letting us
Well,
know. I had no idea.
I will Jim, I will tell them that you said thank you, because they dropped off the call, but they were on the call going, "Hey, I want to be there." So yeah. Okay.
Got it. Got it. And look forward to seeing so many of you guys in Dallas. It was good to catch up with some of you guys in Indiana last week. Others of you I saw in Austin, outside of Austin, like a month ago, like you, Jeff, and others. It was great. David Phelps, thank you so much. I really appreciate you so much, and I hope you have an awesome day.
Well, look forward to seeing everybody in October. It's gonna be a great event.
See you guys later. Bye bye.
Okay, peace.